Going back to the well is a phrase that has been used as a pejorative to, well, where I first know it is from Kevin Smith. When he was making Clerks 2, people accused him of that, trying to reclaim the success of Clerks many years later. And in some ways, I don't think it's that much of a pejorative. Why wouldn't you try and reclaim the success of something in the past? But even taking it out of that context, and this isn't my thought, I didn't note down who said it, so I'm very sorry, but I'm not trying to claim credit, I just can't remember who said this. But going back to the well is a good thing from a survival perspective. Why do we use it in this context? In nomadic tribes, either in the past or some that may still exist today, if you find a source of water, you don't just take one bucket and go, well, that's it, can't use that ever again. You utilise that source as much as you can to survive. We need water, amongst other things, to survive. Now, draining the water table would be a great pejorative, but that's more doing so many sequels of a franchise that you just run it into the ground. There's nothing creatively to draw from again, or ever in the future from that. So yeah, going back to the well makes no sense in that context. But I'm doing that right here, because I talked about the original Outer Worlds. I haven't talked about the Spacer's Choice Edition, but again, going back to the well doesn't mean you're doing exactly the same. But I enjoyed that first one, aside from the Parvati bug that meant that wonderful, beautiful matchmaking story with her and Junlei was so adorable, absolutely beautiful couple, and I'm so sad and salty. Yeah, I'm over it, it's fine. It was rectified here. But yeah, I had some issues with the first one, I had some issues with this one. There was some jittering occasionally, which once I did set it back to default and then bring the graphic settings back up, and realising that sometimes it happens when I was using a second screen for a quest list, that kind of stuff, it's reallocating the memory. I understood. So once I'd figured out why it was happening and resolved it, it was totally fine. But I did enjoy my time with it this time, because when I got the original, I probably, knowing me, paid for the season pass, so I would have had access to the DLCs, but this is an Obsidian game where you can do DLCs and stuff, but you have to do it as part of the main story. If you do the last story mission of the campaign, that's it. That's game end. There is no post-game where you can mop up all the extra stuff. So anything you want to do in this world, you've got to do before the end of the story campaign. I like the idea, but I also don't like the idea. It depends on how stories end. You could have had in this an endgame, or a post-game kind of element. It doesn't need to end at that point. There are certain things that maybe could change, which would require some extra coding, granted, but it doesn't need to happen necessarily in all cases. But I did finally get to experience those 2 DLC, and like I said, I had a quest list up for maybe some of the stuff that I didn't find organically in my first playthrough, but it didn't matter here, because I already vaguely knew the story, I'd remembered from a few years ago, and I got through it, and I could have these extra experiences. So was it worth replaying? Yes. Could I have got the same experience playing the old version with the DLCs? Yes. There are apparently some quality of life improvements that I don't think I really spotted, but it's been a while since I played the first one, like I say, or the original version. So maybe other people have noticed things, and the way I play might mean that certain things didn't jump out at me because that's not what I use or whatever. The graphical changes are one of the big things that's been talked about, and I'm probably, in agreement with most people here. There are certain things that look better originally, and there are some things that look a bit better now. The art style means you can get away with a lot more. It doesn't have to be super photorealistic. It can be quite, sort of stylistic, and it's still going to look good. Any of the changes here tended to be minor tweaks. I didn't like the eye reflections as much. I thought sometimes they're a bit too strong for the lighting in the general scene, or just really drew the eye too much. And that was one thing that I probably would have liked to go back to the old style. But like I say, for the most part, this was quite fun. It was good to get back in this world again. Finally get the end card of Parvati and all the companions. I made sure to do all the companion quests, etc. I squeezed everything out of this game, basically. And I played a different way to the first time. I think having a few years gap was good for me. I don't go back and watch my old reviews, but I feel in the first one I was probably a lot more anti-board as much as possible. But this time there was nuance. Maybe because I'm older and wiser in some ways. Even Edgewater, I can't remember what I did first time, like I say, but I was quite happy to bring the workers back, because more workers, the colony might survive for a bit longer whilst we figure out how to make meaningful changes so that the nutritional deficits can be ironed out. That's fine. I'm quite happy with that. Even though Adelaide was very stubborn, that's her choice. I don't feel guilty about it. That's her choice. Whilst it is, on paper, a pro-board decision, I've done it for the people of Edgewater, not for the board. Similarly, the dimethyl sulfoxide. Nicking that, I didn't take the whole lot. Because, as far as I'm aware, those test subjects are innocent in this. So, killing them just to get more of the dimethyl sulfoxide was not a good decision. Again, technically that's more or less anti-board than I could have got, but I didn't want to kill innocents. So yeah, it was a lot more fun. I was definitely thinking about what I was doing. I was taking my time. I was really enjoying my time in this world again. And obviously, yeah, this has been done to drum up support and interest again in this franchise ahead of the sequel. I mean, that's still going to be a while off, I'm sure, but it's getting it back in people's minds whilst, they go back and work on it. And I know we're not obviously going back to Halcyon. I don't know what they're going to do, whether it will be kind of like little pockets of different colonies around and seeing how they all have different situations. If we get the same kind of creatures, I'll be very upset. If you're setting it somewhere else, make it different. Obviously, the corporations will probably be the same. It's a shame that, from what I've read, we're probably not going to get an explanation of why Earth is quiet. But we may. I mean, that it's all still in the air at this point. Until it's released, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But I'd be very intrigued to know. And I think for the purpose of getting people back into the mindset of it, like I say, talking about it again, I think it does well for that. But if you've got the original, with or without the DLCs, you can play that to get it back in your head. And if you haven't got the DLCs, don't get the Spacer's Choice Edition just for that. Buy the DLCs, it'll probably be cheaper. I mean, if getting this is cheaper than getting the 2 DLCs and you want to replay, fine, do it that way. But what I'm saying is, don't spend extra money on this if you don't have to. I got it through Humble Choice. I wouldn't have bought it outright otherwise. So if you've never played it before, if you enjoy sci-fi games, if you enjoy tongue-in-cheek humour, if you enjoy the way Obsidian makes games and how they write, you'll probably enjoy this a lot. I do think there's a lot to get out of this for those who want to. And just remember, it's not the best choice, it's Spacer's Choice. And until next time, as always, thanks for watching and take care.
It's not the best choice, it's Spacer's Choice.